Hi, my name is Yahav, and I was born and raised as an Israeli and as a Zionist. During the past few years, I've gone through the process of questioning the narrative I grew up with regarding this land we live in and the people living on it. This podcast is about voices of the disillusioned. Each episode is a one-on-one heartfelt conversation with an activist who supports the Palestinian struggle, telling the story of the journey that led them to see through what they were taught. Each of these people has their own unique path that I believe anyone can learn from, whether you're a Palestinian or a Jew, living here or abroad, or just anyone who feels strongly about this subject. I hope you learn as much as I learned from them about how to build a better future for all people between the river and the sea. What does liberal Zionist mean? And what is it about this concept that made Rotem question and eventually dismiss it completely? After training in the elite units of the Israeli military, he began researching the Nakba and everything we weren't taught about it in history class. Then, through intense solo Arabic studying, he was able to really listen to Palestinians and their stories. Today, he is an activist who stands in solidarity with the Palestinian people and believes that the only way to achieve peace is first to achieve justice. Enjoy the episode.
So, I'm 30 years old. I grew up in Vered. Like the Israelis, they call those villages moshavim, which means that this village has like agricultural land around it. When I was born, my parents bought the land. I have a twin brother and a young brother.
Where are your parents from?
So actually, it's a bit funny because all my grandparents, the four of them, they grew up in the same village in the north, Kfar Yechezkel.
Oh, so all of your grandparents grew up here?
Yeah.
Like before 1948?
Yeah. Their parents, like my grandparents, they came from Poland, Russia. One came from Morocco, and one from here, from Palestine.
So that's like a mixture of
a
lot. So you grew up in a household that felt very Israeli, very at home, very, you weren't immigrants like a lot of the Israelis. You grew up in a Zionist environment. Tell me a little bit about that.
My parents, they see themselves as leftist Zionist, which can't go together, but that's what they told me, so that's what I believed in. I was really into like peace agreement with the Palestinians and living here alongside with them, but like the army was on top of everything. So first of all is the army service, because if we don't protect ourselves, they will kick us from here. And then we do peace agreement like this way.
So you were raised to believe that eventually we would like to live here with the Palestinians, with peace. But what has to happen for that to occur is there's not too much talk about justice or the Palestinian, struggle or suffering. Like that's not really part of the
It's not
dialogue.
with them. This is the most important point. It's not living with the Palestinians. Is living next to the Palestinians.
So like a
they
two-state.
Two-state, of course. Now one state is like impossible.
Unheard of.
Like it's craziness.
And this is something that really scares Jews here. Like feeling like a minority again.
It's that, and it's also this, I feel like I realized it maybe like 4 years ago when I was 26. They really don't see any way to live with Palestinians. They think that the culture is too different.
So how does Zionism and leftist values go together in your mind while you're growing up, and this is what you're taught, and this is taught as like the right thing and the natural thing to believe?
So leftist for them, like what I used to think was believing that the Palestinian people have the right to have their own state. But the problem with this left is that they don't see coexistence possible.
Like they don't want to actually live with Palestinians as part of their state,
No.
unless they're a minority that doesn't bother them,
Exactly.
like they are now.
But here there is no coexistence. Like in Israel, there is a huge separation in every aspect of life. So like those who call for like, let's live together, let's have peace. What, this kind of peace? Like when you have like all the privileges and they live in their like Arab villages, so crowded, nothing, like no public transportation, nothing that you got, and you want peace, you want quiet. Of course you want quiet, but look how they live and look how you live. And this is the democratic state you established here.
So also the leftist Zionist is assuming that this is a democratic and Jewish state. That's also a kind of an oxymoron that they believe is just true, because that was what we were taught, that this is a democracy. You learn civics in high school. They teach you about how the system works, about how the Arab members of parliament, of the Knesset, as we call it, are elected just like anyone else. But nobody says a word about the millions of Palestinians living under our rule without any basic human rights. How did they teach us that this is a democracy and just ignore this like really huge issue of millions of people? Like, how is this just not just seen through?
Because they lie to us, basically.
You're just saying they're lying.
Yeah, they lie. So let's say house demolition. What do they tell us? They tell us the Arabs, they don't ask for the permits, so we have to demolish their houses. And in addition, in the West Bank there are the house demolitions, but here inside Israel, they still demolish houses on a daily basis
of
in the Negev of Palestinians, only Palestinians, of course. So they demolish houses of Palestinians because they don't give them permits to build. They don't build new villages, new Palestinian villages, only Jewish. Since 1948, nothing.
Yeah, this is another issue, like not actually establishing new communities, new places to live. Like the population is growing all the time. And, people need places to live, and they're not establishing new towns. And if you're a young Palestinian couple, citizens of Israel, and you're living in this crowded town that you grew up in, and you want to build yourself a new house, and you don't have any towns that are not crowded because they're all crowded, you don't have new towns to move to that are Palestinian or Arab. And you also are not accepted in the Jewish towns. Like the predominantly Jewish towns
will not rent you.
Most people won't rent, and that's not written down on the laws. That's not something that anyone can really prove. That's just like the day-to-day racist stuff that happens. And people go to court, people do things, but most people don't have the energy and don't have, the years to spend suing whoever for not renting them a house because they're Arab. Like it's just something that people just accept that it's like that. We all just accept it.
Palestinians, friends of mine, like every other day, they call me, "Hey, Rotem, can you call to this guy? I want to rent his apartment, but I don't have the courage because I know like it's risky. If I call him, he will hear my
accent.
My accent, and then my chances will go to zero." So, yeah.
This is just like a few examples of the supremacy and how it plays out.
Yeah.
Were you raised with like a religious Jewish background?
So, no, actually religion was like the worst thing in my house. So, atheist, yeah.
So,
totally.
Could you say that was Zionism the religion?
Yeah, definitely.
There wasn't like, oh, this is our promised land because God promised it to us.
No.
It was like, what, we're going to get killed anywhere else, so we need to protect ourselves and have a state.
This one, yeah.
You're like, this lie or that lie? Yeah. I mean, actually, I don't think that either of them are flat out lies. I actually believe to a certain extent, there's a lot of truth to those claims. But I think that they don't necessarily have to come at the expense of the Palestinians in any way. This also is, this land, we do have a connection to it, but we don't have to connect to it in a way that disconnects others.
There was the Palestinian people lived here. Like, it's all lies that there were not people here. And we came and we kicked them off and we established a state for us, for ourselves, which doesn't see them as equal, like, citizens.
And you went to like a secular school as well.
Yeah.
Like very much about Zionism, like just like your home.
Yeah, exactly like my home.
Mm-hmm. There wasn't anything in your life until a certain age that made you question all of this. Like it was all aligned together.
Super aligned. And yeah, so this is why I went to the army, because my eyes were closed until the age of 18. I didn't see anything that contradict my narrative.
Even though like the town of Tira is really close. That's a Palestinian town.
Yeah, but what we do, we buy hummus and we fix our cars.
And other than that, you had no connection to these people.
My father always used to, he really liked to say that he has Palestinians friends, no Palestinians, Arab friends from Tira.
Yeah, they don't call them Palestinians.
Yeah, they don't call them Palestinians because, no, the Palestinians, they live in the West Bank. Like, here are Arab Israelis.
Yeah,
right?
It's like a separation.
Yeah, so we invented their identities. So the establishment of the state invented the identities of 1.5 million people. Like, how ridiculous it is. As there was nothing before the state. Like, the state is the 0 point.
Mm. And what did your father used to claim?
That he has many Arab friends from Tira. And today it's like, actually, they are not your friends. Like, you don't go to their houses and visit them, and you don't know the families. They
don't call you when they need help because nobody's going to rent them an apartment.
Exactly. You just go there because you have something you want from them. And it's all about this interests. But it's not friendships. Nothing about friendship. It's like they want your money and you want and
you want their service.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you volunteered for pilot course. Yeah. This is in the Israeli society considered like the best of the best. There's nothing, like you reached the top. Were you proud of yourself? Like,
I guess I got the feedback from the people around me that I'm doing the best. So I was happy. I used to spend most of the time there. I went out to visit my parents every 2 or 3 weeks. So I was there all time. So you're not like aware to what is going on outside.
It's in this bubble inside a bubble.
It's a bubble inside the bubble inside the bubble. And every time you go back home, like you have like 48 hours or even less. And like all your family come and see you and tell you, oh, you're so great. Oh, you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then you go back for another month.
So you did the course for a year. And then what happened?
And then I wasn't good enough. So
I mean, most people won't finish the course.
Yeah.
Even if they're recruited.
I hated it actually. Like flying these flights. I had
flying the plane?
Flying the plane, yeah. I got sick.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, I got so sick there in the air and I didn't enjoy it. But it's really amazes me every time I think about it that I really was so into it. It's like unbelievable how much I was into it and how much I didn't see like the consequences of, okay, who are those pilots? What are their missions? Why do I want to be a pilot? Just because the people around me told me it's the best thing you can do.
They were like praising you for being,
they praised me and how we are affected by our communities.
So you're kind of lucky in a sense that you got sick flying the planes because, I mean, you might have ended up being a pilot dropping bombs on Gaza.
You don't know how thankful I am for this one. Really.
So you dropped out of, they kicked you out of the pilot course. And then where were you posted? Like, what's the rest of your service? Because you did a year out of 3 years.
Yeah, and then I still had a lot of motivation, and I felt like I want to do the best thing, so I will be praised, and I will show like the people around me, my community, that I'm worthy.
Worthy of what?
I guess of love.
Wow.
Yeah. Shit. Oh my God, I'm crying.
Kapara.
So I went to this really, really tough day when they like test all the teenagers to these spatial units after I was kicked from the pilot course, and I still had a lot of motivation, and I want to succeed. So I did it, and they accepted me to like the best unit. And then I spent there 2 years with a group of 13 people in my age, same age as mine. One of the toughest like years of my life, for sure.
Because the training was tough?
Training was so tough. Physically, mentally, so intense. Like the relationships, like, because you have a really intense daily life with a really small group of people, and all of you know that they don't need all of you. So they need maybe 10 of you, let's say.
So you know that some of you are going to be kicked out from this as well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All the time it's in your mind.
So it's competitive on the one hand, but on the other hand, the intensity creates like friendships.
Exactly. Yes. So I have great friends from these 2 years. Today, like, we have some difficulties which relates to these political issues. And with many of them, like, we didn't keep in contact. I have like few of them which we still in contact. I really love them. They are really great people, but they are blind to the Palestinians' pain.
Like, have you've talked to your friends from this unit about this since, and like you've realized who is blind to the Palestinian pain and who isn't,
yeah.
And you've stayed in contact like according to this?
Not. I guess it happened, naturally. So there is a border between us. There is a wall, because if I cannot express my feelings and my thoughts about this whole issue, and this is one of the biggest issues in my life right now, and he cannot hear this. He basically cannot hear nothing about this world. So yeah, it gets you a bit.
It creates a distance.
Pushes you away in a way.
So you spent 2 years only training.
Yeah.
Were you supposed to like finish the training and then go do like commando operations and sign in more time in the army?
Yeah, exactly. And what happened there is quite similar to what happened in the first year. So after we finished this 1 year and 10 months of training, I was elected to a position, and then I had behavioral issue like mishmat.
You don't deal good with authority.
Yeah,
you can. It's interesting that you went to the most like the units where you need to handle authority in the best way. You need to be very, very obedient. And when you reach the end, you kind of realize, I'm not very good at being obedient, actually.
Yeah. This is exactly what happened. And I'm so thankful for the kicking from the pilot course, but from this one too, because I see my friends who stayed maybe 3 years longer than mine.
So they did 6 years in the army?
Yeah, they did maybe 6, 5.
Wow.
And I see how they were affected from those extra years.
Because
and
they stayed in that bubble within the bubble. And
exactly. And every year is it's becoming so much more difficult to get out of this brainwash and of this.
Because you're so invested in it. You get more and more invested in it. It's harder to like.
And you don't see anything else. You just hear the same loops again and again.
So you got kicked out, I guess, or not kicked out, but you didn't finish, the...
No, I was kicked out.
Ah, okay. So you got kicked out.
I finished, and after I finished, I kicked out. I was kicked out.
And then you already kind of completed your 3 mandatory years, so they just said, okay, we'll let you go. Like, you're finished with your army service.
If you want, you can go, yeah. That's what they told me.
So you were like, okay, I'm finished training really hard for nothing.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were, oh my God, I just wasted 3 years only training and I'm not actually contributing to, my country? Or
I was really sad about like not being with my friends. So they stayed together and I was kicked out and I felt like I want to be with them. I didn't care about what we're gonna do. Actually, I wasn't enthusiastic about the work that we have to do. I was really into stay with my friends. That's it.
So you finished your army service, and what did you do then?
I worked in different places, here and abroad, and then I traveled as any other like Israeli has to I would say rebirth.
After the army service.
After the army service, to understand who you are, to understand what you are going through during those years, and it affects you so much, and you are trying to understand what is going up or what is happening around you, because you are not used to the world. You are used to the army, to
being inside an army base with commanders and this whole system. Yeah.
And suddenly freedom, I can do whatever I want. Whoa. How do I handle this one?
Yeah, especially you in these specific units where you were extra, inside this closed system. It's sometimes even these elite units are not seen as, really part of the regular army, the regular combat units. It's like separate. It's like beyond. So it's even more of a internal kind of system. So when was the first time you kind of questioned Zionism or, the state or anything? Or when did you first hear the word occupation and actually think, oh.
So I think my biggest and most important time was when I participated in a dialogue project in Germany for 2 weeks. We went 20 Israelis and 20 Palestinians from the West Bank. We met in Germany and we spent those 2 weeks doing dialogue from morning to the evening, really, really intense and exhausting dialogue. But I felt first of all, I amazed by the stories.
The personal stories of the Palestinians?
Personal stories and the stuff I realized my people, this Zionist movement, didn't tell me for years.
About their history.
About our history here, about their history, about what happened there in 48, about what is happening in the West Bank, about who are those Palestinian refugees. I didn't know that there are refugees.
Yeah, the thing about the refugees, I think, is maybe one of the most suppressed piece of history. And it's not only history, it's, still going on. A lot of them still live as refugees, even if they're living here. And I had no idea about the issue of the refugees and how much it's so important in the Palestinian narrative, in the story and history. I just saw, okay, there's these people living behind this wall, behind these fences, behind these checkpoints, and, they're called Palestinians, and that's it. that's the Palestinians. I didn't realize at all until a few years ago that there's this whole other story with
Camps,
millions of people around the world. And yeah.
And camps in every Arab country around us, and in Europe, and in the States, and they all live this dream about coming back here, and how it's important for them, and how it's such a basic thing, and you cannot solve it without finding a solution for this one. And I wasn't aware of the problem at all. Like, I didn't know that there are refugees.
It took me a long time to realize how much the right of return is something that's been ignored completely by every negotiation that has been on the table between Israelis and Palestinians. The Israeli side has just ignored the whole issue of refugees and right of return completely. Like, it's something you can just kind of shoo away and disregard. And when I actually met these people, I realized you can't just like not talk about it and it'll go away. It's a real problem. And it's a real big piece of their identity, of all of Palestinians' identity. You know, if they live abroad or if they live here or whoever they are.
It's the biggest piece, I feel.
I mean, a Palestinian could say for them what's, you know, but it seems like it's maybe one of the biggest issues. Yeah. The whole idea of like, you know, the Jewish people returning to their homeland after 2,000 years of being, you know, displaced, and then the Palestinian people not being allowed to return after 73 years. Like, how does that
work for you, Zionists?
Yeah, that's something that I only dawned on me, like, I'd say a year ago.
So I met this group of Palestinians in Germany. It was really, really eyes-opening experience for me. I came back like overwhelmed.
This was how old were you?
24, 3.
But what made you go there initially?
I think I've never met Palestinians from the West Bank.
Like before you were 24?
Yeah. I was curious to hear like their story. My parents always told me like they have to get their state. So I was curious, like, what is the problem? Like, why do they fight us? Like, I was curious.
You were like, but they have their state, because what's the Palestinian Authority, right? Were you thinking of that, or?
Yeah, I heard about the occupation in the West Bank in my house. Like, this Zionist leftists, they believe that the Israeli settlers are the source of the problem.
And that the occupation started in 1967.
In 1967. This is the most important thing. So they deleted the whole part of the Nakba.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
That's not a problem. Like, millions of refugees all around the world, not a problem. But the Jewish settlers in the West Bank, they are the problem. But what we do here, basically we do the same, right? We came here as settlers. We just got like the approval of the international community in 1948. So it's okay. But we are the same. We are settlers, you know? We came here from Europe or wherever, and we bought the land or conquered it. But it's the same project. So yeah, let's say there is no military occupation in 1948 today. So it's easier to believe for them that
it's legitimate.
That it's legitimate, exactly. Yeah. Because they see what is happening in the West. They don't see everything, but they know that the army control it.
Yeah.
But here they feel like, come on, Palestinians here, they have the same rights.
Because it's not military regime, so it's not military law, so they feel, well, they're living under civil law, so, I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. And they should have the same in the West Bank and in Gaza.
Yeah, but if you go deeper here, you see that there are many laws that are enacted in favor of Jews.
Yeah, of course.
So
this is like, they're ignoring this part.
Yeah, all institutions here are working, so more Palestinians will be displaced, so Jewish majority will be sustained, and Israelis just don't see it. I don't know, No,
I think that some of them see it and accept it, and they say, you know, this is the only way for us to survive here and be safe.
Yeah.
That's also part of the narrative. It's like, well, this is what's necessary.
Yeah.
Like, they're seeing this part as like, oh, well, that's a shame. We just have to do it, There's no other choice. There's no other way. There's no other possible way.
Yeah, stop crying about the past. Let's live the present and this kind of stuff.
So you went to this dialogue week and you came back kind of like disillusioned, but you weren't like you are today.
No.
So how are you still clinging on to Zionist identity or,
I think I was still Zionist, but I became really active. But I still believe that the problem was settlers in the West Bank. I tried to figure out how this whole Nakba, what really happened, and I began reading about it. And like maybe after a year or two, I started to study Arabic really seriously.
So by this time you were in med school, right?
Yeah.
We forgot this part. You came back?
I came back and started immediately med school.
Okay, so you're going to be a doctor and you're like on this track of like being the best citizen because you were like in the best elite units, and then now you're going to be a doctor and you're like living up to the expectations of your society.
In a way. So yeah, after maybe 3 years of med school, I realized I really want to understand Arabic and to know how to communicate with them. And so I started like put most of my time into Arabic. When I finished med school, so I decided to go and live in the West Bank because my Arabic was good enough and I had already have friends from the West Bank.
Palestinian friends, obviously.
Yeah, Palestinian friends. And I moved to a village next to Bethlehem. And I did the final exams of med school there. And meanwhile, I practiced my Arabic.
Okay, some people might hear this and say, well, you're just a settler.
No, because settlers, they live in settlements.
In their own communities.
In their own communities, and the army protect them. I lived in a Palestinian village with Palestinians, and the army didn't know about me.
So weren't you afraid?
No.
Because I know that us Israelis are raised to think that this is a hostile population that doesn't want us there, and that there's a large chance that they'll be violent towards us. So how did you approach this?
I can't say I wasn't excited. So, for instance, the first time I entered Ramallah on my own, I had like butterflies. I felt like...
I would call it adrenaline rush.
Yeah, adrenaline rush, but not like panic attack or afraid from the enemy, from like those violent Palestinians. It's not this. It's just about like adrenaline.
Because this is the first time you're going into somewhere that you were told is dangerous and everybody will kill you there.
Yeah.
But did you feel 100% safe?
I wouldn't say I felt 100% safe, but here I don't feel 100% safe,
Do you think that you reached the point that you're in today, or was there more learning to do, more?
I think the most critical point was when I started to understand Arabic to the level that I could hear news, podcasts, radio in Arabic, like Palestinians speaking in Arabic about what is happening here.
So when you started consuming media about the situation in their language, then you understood like really what their narrative is about. Not only about the history, but also about the current events.
And at the same time, I could speak with my Palestinian friends and understand from them personally what is the Palestinian narrative and how they see
in
reality.
Their language.
In their language, exactly. So it's really different because you feel them. Same as you can't feel me right now because I speak in English, and if I was speaking in Hebrew, it was much different.
Yeah, so, I would understand better.
Yeah. So when you listen to someone in his own language, in his native language, you can understand much more details about his experience.
Do you want to say something about like what it's like to unlearn?
Zionism?
Yeah.
First of all, it feels amazing. It feels so good to unlearn Zionism because...
Are you liberated? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, you feel free from the fear.
What fear?
Fear of the others, of the Arabs.
Oh, you feel like the Zionism has a lot of xenophobia, like fearing the Palestinians and just fearing anyone who's not Jewish, actually. And then when you unlearn Zionism, you're not afraid of being persecuted.
In Palestinian areas, in living here as like not under Jewish supremacy. And at the same time, it feels really bad because the whole community is still Zionist.
Like your friends, your family.
Yeah.
The whole country.
So it's like fighting but it's not fighting. It's about like realizing how different you are, how you think differently.
After your whole life, you've been totally aligned.
Yeah, totally aligned. And then suddenly at the age 24, 25, you realize that, oh my God, I don't believe in it anymore. But your parents and your cousins and your neighbors and your friends from university and everybody, they still have the same point of view, still have this fear from the others, still have this thinking that we have to have the strongest army because we have to fight to defend ourselves. And they will not reach to the Palestinians and ask them, what's the issue? Come on, tell us, like, what's the problem?
Like, why are you resisting?
Yeah, why are you resisting? Oh, no, they just don't want us here.
They're just assuming that the resistance is what they think it's about, instead
Palestinian
of actually
nature.
Asking.
Yeah, and they feel like they think that Palestinian nature is to resist to Jews living here in Palestine.
It's also a lot about an existential threat that I think comes from this trauma, like intergenerational trauma, not only from the Holocaust, but like a very long history of being threatened, like really threatened physically as Jews. I think that's also part of it. Like by the time you're in kindergarten as an Israeli, you already know that each Jewish holiday has something to do with someone wanting to exterminate us and either almost succeeding or not succeeding. And then that's the amount of celebration or fasting. But it's a lot about that. I mean, there's other holidays that are not about that. There is Shavuot about, receiving the Torah, There's also, there's a lot of things, but most of it is about us trying to survive, basically.
Personally, I see that the problem began when the Zionists thought that the best way to solve the Jewish problem worldwide is to establish a state for the Jews, while in Palestine there were maybe like 20% Jews, even less. And they thought that they have the moral justification to come here, to buy lands, to build the army, and then once there is the call or whatever, to displace hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, establish a state for your own people. And how could you find the moral justification for it? Because we know now that it was all planned. Like, come on, I'm just exhausted about trying to convince Israelis it was planned, but it's so clear. Like, if you hear to the stories, if you see how the Zionist leaders talked before the war,
you can Google it for free.
Yeah.
If you write it in Hebrew, you don't even have to know English. You Google Jabotinsky, Masach HaBarzel or Kir HaBarzel, and you see it. It's just free. It's PDF. It's like 3 pages long. He just writes it black on white. Just there it is. Him saying before the Holocaust, that if we're not going to be a majority and if we're not going to use force, then we're not going to be able to establish a Jewish state, period. That's it. That's one of the leaders of the Zionist movement. Like, what else? And then these other leaders that are allegedly his political rivals just executing everything that he said. Just
You-
like that.
You know what freaks me out? That I hear many Israelis, many, say that we had to finish it with them when we could in 48.
Oh, yeah.
We had to finish it, we had to displace them all, and now there was no like
And then we
Palestinian-
wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah, so if you think that way, how can you...
That's genocide. What do you mean?
Yeah, and how can you like not believe that it was all planned? If you think yourself think that way, that you
you're
had
saying as an individual, if you can think those thoughts,
Yeah.
how can you not believe that the displacement was planned?
Exactly.
That's a really, really strong point, Rotem. But I'm also kind of tired of trying to convince Israelis. I feel that
they will not like the Palestinian will not be free when Israel is like we shouldn't wait for Israelis to open their eyes, and they
because
will
it's going to
not.
take too long. You're
Too
saying.
long, and it will not happen. Like we have to put pressure from outside, and when the Palestinian people will get unified, this is the point when something will start to change here.
So you're saying the answer is unity of the Palestinian people.
Empowering
struggle?
Palestinian people as much as we can, and they will free themselves from it with the help of
External pressure.
Western states.
What do you think is our roles as Jewish Israelis who have kind of woken up to this at this point? What should we be doing if there's people who are listening who think similar to you? I know that some Israelis are listening. I know you're out there, guys. Ma kore? I know some of you are pissed off by what we're saying, and I know some of you kind of maybe agree a little, but still are afraid. So what do you think? What do you think that we should be doing right now?
We should study. We should
educate ourselves?
Yeah, educate ourselves. First step, and most important, because this process of education is really long. It's not in a day or a week.
Oh yeah, takes years.
Takes years. Like since this dialogue week in Germany, I think the process was in maybe 4 or 5 years until I had the world of view, the thinking that I have today. And so first we have to educate ourselves, then we have to support Palestinians, but it will happen like naturally. After you educate yourselves, you understand that there is something really, really bad is happening here, and you start to support the Palestinians. That's what happened with me. And try to be as compassionate as you can for your own people, because they also having really tough time. They don't understand. They feel that everybody are against them. They are afraid as fuck.
Oh yeah, and they very much feel like they're the victims.
Yeah.
The more there's criticism against them or their systems that are protecting them, they feel like more and more defensive about it. It's like this cycle. I feel like the Palestinians need to hear the Israelis.
So much.
Like standing up for them and saying, we are giving you acknowledgement. Plain old acknowledgement. It goes so far. It just dismantles so much of all of the things that are coming in the way of, being able to really create something new here, because the system that's already operating is not something that we can just live with. It's an oppressive system. I don't think that it can keep living as it is. There needs to be something new created. So for that to happen, there needs to be real, genuine communication between us and the Palestinians. Like, what would you say to people who say, well, if you really don't want to be an oppressor and you've realized your role in this oppression, then you just have to get up and leave? What would you tell those people?
Actually, I feel that those who became aware to what is happening, they have the power to change it, and they have the power to make a new reality here. And yeah, I feel responsibility in a way. So if I live, I cannot live like my mind will be here because I know how bad it's going to get. I really know it. It's gonna be really bad here.
It's only getting worse.
It's going to get so worse. The Israelis, they don't want to hear or to see or to understand how bad it's going to be, but it's going to be so bad. And I feel that we, as Israelis who understand both sides, in a way, we have to do something. Like, I feel that by going to the West Bank, talking to Palestinians, give them acknowledgement, tell them that we are with them, I feel that the more we build bridges between the people, the amount of violence will be smaller when it gets explode.
You're saying like to be compassionate to the Israelis in our, our own communities. Tell me a little bit about the process that you've gone through with your family. I know that your brother is in the army. How do you handle that? How do you handle this situation?
Wow, it's an ongoing struggle for me. It's so difficult to understand the absurd of the Zionist narrative and then see your people, your closest people, your parents, your brother, still believing in it. And for years, like I tried to fight it and to convince them that they got it wrong. Like, and look, there are millions of people who live under occupation, and the history, like, they don't tell us the history. The Nakba. How come you didn't tell me about what really happened in the independent
You
war?
asked your parents about this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I asked them, of course. And why didn't they tell us about it in schools? And it's really difficult for them to hear because they are at the point where I were when I was 18, more or less. So they think the way I thought when I was 18. And that thinking made me volunteering for an elite unit. So it's really difficult for me to be compassionate, but at the same time, I really want them to open their eyes. So we fight a lot. And lately I just understood that I don't want to fight my parents. It's too difficult for me. It takes so much energy. Many times, like after I fight with them, I just want to leave this place. I want to run away. So I decided, okay, stop fighting my parents. It worked for a while. A week ago I had another fight. But I'm working on it, trying to handle it in a way. And I don't know, I feel like the solution will not come when the Israelis will open their eyes. So I, in a way,
So
it's sad, it's really sad, but I feel like, okay, whatever, when it will happen, it will happen. It will be really, really sad. People here a lot of people will die. That's for sure.
That's the sad part, that that you know that this is going to happen, and you know that, none of your people are going to really prevent it.
Yeah. Just, we will have to go through the pain and then to build a new reality.
They say the only way out is through.
Yeah.
I feel so touched because you're very much emotionally connected to this. It's not just a logical thing. Justice is not only about what's right or wrong. It's really like the heart is in it. Like, you can't see Rotem, but he's had tears in his eyes for half the interview. Because this kind of realization, I think it also comes from connecting your heart with your mind. Like, connecting understanding history that you didn't know with your basic human empathy for people who are suffering. It's just, that's all that needs to happen, connecting the two. There's injustice, there's suffering, there's pain, and
they are human beings as me.
Yeah, that's just...
So I care for them.
Chaim. Kapara alecha. Yeah. I used to say, they're human beings, yeah, but. Right? There's that but. How can you say they're human beings, but? How can you say...
But.
about that, yeah. This reminded me of this post that this Palestinian woman that I've been in touch with on Instagram posted the other day, and it really moved me. It really reminded me of you, actually, I sent it to you, but you haven't seen it yet. It says, breathe. The violence will not stop today. Decolonization is a long process of pain and grief. What can be decolonized today is our minds.
Wow. Yeah.
Some strong words.
Yeah, we are all in the same ship, in a way, of decolonization, and it will take so much time, but we have to remember that we are in it together. Palestinians, Israelis, humans living in this place. Humans not living in this place, like Palestinians.
Being killed in this place.
Yeah, and we will have to go with our, human nature of oneness and of humanity, that we care for each other just because we are humans.
Yeah, I really believe that. There's this concept of justice where you're like, things that are wrong need to be fixed in some way. And I think that kicking people out of their homes or, creating more suffering is not going to create justice. Acknowledging each other's pain, no matter who you are, you can always acknowledge someone else's pain. It doesn't matter if you're the oppressed or the oppressor, or what what someone is expecting from you, or is allowed to expect from you or not allowed to expect from you. It's a cycle of violence, but it's also a cycle of empathy. Like when I empathize and acknowledge Palestinians, it opens them up to empathize and acknowledge me. And that's also part of the story of healing.
Yeah.
Of course, I feel like I need to make the first move because there is a power imbalance. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Once I make that move, I will usually receive it back. And then it's always like, it's very healing, And I'm not doing it because I'm expecting them to empathize and to acknowledge, but I just know that it comes together. When someone is given acknowledgement and is given empathy, they usually give it back just because that's the human nature, It's just how we are. So, thank you for sharing your story, Rotem.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I don't know, I just wanted to show the world this amazing creature called Rotem Levin. And I want you to tell me just this one thing that you want the people that were listening to us to leave with. Maybe this last message that you have to humanity.
Don't be indifferent. Don't forget the pain of the people you don't see. They need you. Everyone needs you. Wherever you are, you can affect the situation here from everywhere in the world. Just open your eyes, open your heart, and tell the truth. Tell that we are all the same, and we just want equality and peace for all, and we just want this to end.
Amen. So that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Rotem, for sharing your story. Thank you, Ro'i Geva, for the beautiful soundtrack. And thank you for listening.